Lizzie Borden was an American woman tried and acquitted of the August 4, 1892 axe murders of her father and stepmother in Fall River, Massachusetts. No one else was charged in the murders, and she was ostracized from the other residents of the town. Borden spent the remainder of her life in Fall River. I'm not sure if she spent it in that exact house, but if I want to remember correctly, that she did. The legend goes that most people believed that she was wrongfully acquitted of murder. She's got to be the only one that could do it in their eyes. So, the story goes is that she killed her stepmother while her stepmother was cleaning an upstairs room and attacked her from behind. That's why she's laying down, face down. And then when her father came home, he decided to take a nap on the couch, and she attacked him there and smashed his face in with the axe. These are the remains of the skulls of the Bordens and the damage that was done to their skulls with the supposed and believed murder weapon at the bottom, which looks more like a hatchet to me, but I mean, a hatchet and an axe, the only difference is one's smaller than the other. They can do the same amount of damage. And by looking at this picture, I would say that's a lot of damage. And you can even tell which one is which. That first one has got to be the father, because most of the front of his face is smashed in, especially on that one side. And then the skull on the right-hand side has got to be that of Mrs. Borden, because she was attacked from behind, and all the damage is done to the skull from behind. It wouldn't be the first time somebody was acquitted that actually committed the murder. You got to remember, this was back in the 19th century, so DNA didn't exist. She covered her tracks very well, if she is indeed the killer. And to the town, she could be the only one that could be the killer. It's one of those things, it's like circumstantial, like nobody else was home except for the housemaid, who was outside and took her all day to clean windows. She claimed she didn't hear anything. They, of course, cleared her. So who do we have left? We have Lizzie left. So, in my opinion, Lizzie was the murderer. And I think most people believe that. So, just because she was acquitted doesn't make you innocent. Just because you are declared not guilty does not mean innocent. The Villisca Axe Murder House was the scene of a brutal mass murder in 1912. It's just a small town in southwestern Iowa, an hour or so southwest of Des Moines. A lot of people have heard of the Villisca Axe murders because of the paranormal shows and the true crime shows that we have today, so I'm sure that you've heard of the story of the Villisca Axe murders. Well, if you haven't heard of this story before, the Villisca Axe murders occurred between the evening of June 9th, 1912 and the early morning hours of June 10th. The 6 members of the Moore family and 2 house guests were found bludgeoned in the Moore residence. All 8 victims, including 6 children, had severe head wounds from an axe. A lengthy investigation yielded several suspects, one of whom was tried twice. The first trial ended in a hung jury, and the second ended in an acquittal. The crime remains unsolved till this day. Over time, many possible suspects emerged, including Reverend George Kelly, Frank F. Jones, William Mansfield, Loving Mitchell, and Henry Lee Moore, no relation to the Moores that were murdered. George Kelly was tried twice for the murder. The first ended in a hung jury, like I said before, and the second trial ended in an acquittal, as I also mentioned. Other suspects in the investigation were looked at, but were all exonerated. So, like I said, this is a crime that occurred so long ago, there's no way it'll be solved. It will forever be a cold case. And unfortunately, so many children, and just another family annihilation, an entire family taken out, and even the 2 little girls that were just there spending the night, their family lost them. So it's a really sad situation, and just because it happened a long time ago doesn't mean it still doesn't matter. It just means it'll never be solved. The chances are very slim, but rest in peace to those that were lost that night, and that's all I can really say about that. So I'm doing my next segment of my video on the Axeman of New Orleans, and I'm watching those dudes from BuzzFeed, and although everything is cool with their information, they get to making jokes, and it's kind of funny. So they're making me laugh, but I'm trying to take it seriously. So we got some facts. You know, I've studied this case before. I've seen this video before. The Axeman of New Orleans started in 1918. This was not a local person. He only killed there from 1918 to 1919, or maybe 1920. I can't remember. I will get those facts straight, though. He killed mostly in the middle of the night. The first victims were the Maggios. It seemed that he did attack a lot of the Italian families in New Orleans at the time. The Maggios or Maggios was a married couple. He always used what was on hand, which usually was that's what I'm laughing at. I'm not laughing at the story, I'm laughing at these guys. But it was usually an axe, your own axe. He didn't use his own axe. This was an odd serial killer for sure. Short-lived in New Orleans, but left a big impact and killed a bunch of people there. So these are just a few facts for me to remind myself to add to the video, and as I refresh my memory, as I watch a couple of videos just to make sure I get my facts straight, I will come back and record some more. Okay, catch you later, Jerry. Okay, so the Axeman's next victims were Louis Bessemer and Anna Lowe, discovered by a baker. Another note about the last 2 victims, the man that I mentioned, the Bessemer guy, lived. The woman lived for 2 weeks before dying from her injuries, and they're about to explain that before she died, she was able to give a description of a white man. I'll have to listen to the rest, but so far we know that before she died, she gave the police a description of a white man who attacked her. And on another note, the axes that he used, the people's axes they used, that his victims' axes, his God. Okay, like, you know, so he would go up in your yard, and he would take your axe that you owned, and he would kill you with it. You, the victim. He would actually leave the bloody axe behind. Maybe that was just him trying to be original. Some sort of like, haha, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? in the signs of a sociopath, serial killer type person anyway. I mean, today that dude would never have gotten away with it, but back then, I mean, he was just in the right time period. So I mean, I'm not excusing it. I'm just, I'm saying it was harder to do. Like, I mean, think about it. Jack the Ripper never got caught. Even if you found out who they were later on through some kind of like weird DNA, like they tried with Jack the Ripper, they didn't find out back then when everybody back then was still alive. We die off as generations, and that's what becomes history. So who knows who the Axeman of New Orleans was? I mean, he went on probably to kill somewhere else and became someone else, or maybe he got unlucky and got killed, or nobody knows. It's a mystery. The world's full of them. In a way, this guy, he's this dichotomy of Richard Ramirez and Jack the Ripper, or BTK. Well, more like Jack the Ripper, because we know who BTK is. But Richard Ramirez, his crime spree lasted a little over a year, and then he was like satanic, into the devil. Well, the Axeman, after reading his letter, he's obviously satanic. It's pretty much in the letter that he's evil, that he's practicing Satanism or something. That, I mean, he's a madman. So was Richard Ramirez. So was Jack the Ripper. So are serial killers. So, I mean, this really happened in real life. Life kills life. I don't think anything else in this world can kill us but life. So, do mysteries happen? Sure. Think, what times were these? Again, a long time ago. People couldn't get away with it today. And I'm going to make a point of that in the very end of my video that I make about axe murderers. I'm going to stick in one local dude. He got caught that very night that he tried it. By now, after this last guy's death, New Orleans seems to be taking it pretty seriously, and men are staying up at night and they're packing their shotguns full, and they're just waiting on this guy, take him out. They want him gone, and I'm talking about the facts of the case. Later on, I'm going to talk a little bit about AHS and how they, kind of brought him back to life in a fictional way, but this actually really did happen in real life. They just used this character and dramatized it and Hollywooded it up. But the real guy did exist. Okay, so that night in New Orleans in 2019, on a Tuesday, when he claimed that he was gonna, give them the axe if they weren't playing jazz music. Well, everybody either played it out of their homes, off their Victrolas, whatever they have, whatever you called it back then, and those who didn't, packed into the clubs, into the jazz clubs, and played jazz music all night long, and not one single soul was murdered. So he kept his word for that. So, guess he really did like jazz music, huh? Wow, were everybody's solos. He also later on taunts the press, again, like Jack the Ripper and BTK and whoever else. Being a bomber. But yeah, it's about the playing the jazz music because he's real fond of it. So as long as he's strolling through there at night, you better be playing jazz. You can't be playing anything else. Who the hell's gonna play anything other than jazz? Back then especially. But if your house wasn't blaring music, you were a potential victim. Todd Brown, 35 years old, killed his wife, Jamie Brown, after he struck her in the head with a hatchet. The gruesome killing happened in February of 2017 at a home on Eva Street. They said that he called 911. He said, "I hit my wife in the head with a hatchet." And they said, "Okay, stay on the line." He was arrested that night and tried for his wife's murder and sentenced to life in prison.